First of all, who uses the internet in the United States? About 75% of all adults. Who uses the internet to find information about health issues and medical issues? About 85% of all the adults who use the internet also look for health and medical information, or in other words, about 60% of all adults in the United States. Those who use it for health and medical information are more likely to be white, female, college educated, with incomes over $50,000, and the mean age is about 45 years. Now, why females? Because they usually control about the lion's share of household spending and about 60% of all healthcare dollars. Okay. They are the primary caregivers and also the decision makers in a household. Now, there are several types of online pharmacies. I'm going to be talking about one of them. Some are licensed with no specific medical affiliation, such as drugstore.com. They require that a prescription be called in from a licensed physician that the patient has a doctor-patient relationship with. Some are licensed with a specific medical affiliation. There's often a person who acts as a broker who gathers a patient's medical information and then assigns that person to one of the physicians in that network with which the pharmacy is affiliated. Then there are the international or the rogue pharmacies. These are the ones who are usually not licensed, do not require a prescription for medications. They're generally located in another country or even offshore, and all it takes to get a medication is to fill out a questionnaire online, and I'll get to that in just a minute. Now, we have the concept of the doctor-patient relationship, of course, but rarely does one bring up the possibility of the pharmacist-patient relationship. Few people, I would venture to say, think of a pharmacist in the same way that one thinks of one's physician. We don't usually say my pharmacist, we say my doctor. Now, even though pharmacists can do some of the same things as physicians, give advice about medications, indications, contraindications, they can give some shots, we don't usually have a personal type relationship with the pharmacist. Pharmacists actually have the lowest levels of interactions with patients than any other healthcare provider. And in many places where one goes to have prescriptions filled, there is a section at the end of the pharmacy counter that maybe has a sign over it that says consult. And if you want to talk to the pharmacist, you request from one of the technicians, I want to talk to the pharmacist, in which case he or she will come over and you discuss your personal issues in front of 9,000 other people who are waiting to get their prescriptions filled. People are actually more likely to know the name of their hairdresser than the name of their pharmacist. Maybe getting prescriptions over the internet is merely an extension of that kind of impersonality. Now, why would somebody use an online pharmacy? Well, they offer the convenience of 24-hour shopping. As Americans age more, we'll have difficulty getting around, getting to a pharmacy. During economic downturns, such as the one we have, or not even during an economic downturn, fewer people have insurance. Some people are completely uninsured or underinsured, or just plain can't afford to get their prescriptions filled. Many online pharmacies offer prescriptions that are very low in price, sometimes too low in price. They can offer privacy, especially for the kinds of conditions that people are reluctant to discuss with a physician. They can serve as a last resort for some people who are desperate for a cure, which places such individuals in an even more vulnerable position. And some people don't believe in traditional medicine, as has already been brought up. So, what's the problem? Is it the buyer or is it the seller? It's actually both. Now, potential dangers of online pharmacies. Since the customers, and I didn't say patients, since the customers of online pharmacies usually self-diagnose, there are a number of dangers inherent in that. They can obtain medications that are inappropriate for them, for their condition, or for the condition that they think they have. There could be negative drug interactions or allergic reactions. The drugs could be contaminated, fake, out of date. The dosage could be inappropriate. There's often a lack of balanced information about what the medicine is and what it can do and what it cannot do and how to take it. If consumers have problems, then these online pharmacies usually know that the consumers are not going to complain, they're not going to file a lawsuit, they're not going to go to the Better Business Bureau. The risk of deception is even greater for patients or for consumers who are not educated, not particularly computer literate. There's often no follow-up. Rarely is there somebody who calls you a few days later and says, has the medication made an improvement? How are you feeling? There's absolutely no guarantee that the information on the questionnaires that you fill out, and I filled out one, and I'll tell you about it in just a minute, will be treated confidentially. It's often a fertile ground for identity thieves. Right? Okay. There's no way of knowing where the drugs were actually made. Some ingredients are manufactured in one place, others are manufactured in another. Just because a pharmacy claims to be located in Canada or anywhere else does not mean that it actually is. Even if it's located, for example, in Canada, the regulatory agency called Health Canada does not regulate prescription drugs that are manufactured in other countries and just siphoned through Canada on their way to somewhere else. If a drug is manufactured in another country and it's not intended for Canadian citizens, Canada does not guarantee its safety or its purity. There's also no way to verify that the person on the other end of the internet who says that he or she is a physician really is a physician licensed in their respective country or licensed in the United States. Now, major search engines like Google, Yahoo, MSN claim to require verification of online pharmacies through pharmacychecker.com. And they claim to require that a website be based in Canada or the United States. However, there's an awful lot of money to be made, obviously, and search engines can reap huge profits through web page ads. Sponsored links that pop up in response to search terms pay the search engine every time a person clicks on the ad or goes to the link. Pharmacychecker.com supposedly requires their advertisers who sell prescription drugs to be approved and to have a pharmacy license in the US or Canada, as well as contact information for the seller, but they also allow foreign and other sellers to advertise on primary search engines with impunity. All an international seller has to do is to claim that they're based in the United States or Canada. The FDA, for example, has commissioned a study of about 11,000 allegedly Canadian websites, only to find that a little over 200 were actually registered in Canada. There is the National Association of Boards of Pharmacy Verified Internet Pharmacy Practice Site, or VIPS, which is a rigorous evaluation system of pharmacies that use the internet, but so far has only accredited somewhere between 20 and 30 of these online drug sellers. Now, signs of an unsafe online pharmacy. If something looks too good to be true, it probably is. Right? Medicines that are priced much lower than they are in the United States through reputable medical channels, sometimes too low. If there's no contact information with the alleged pharmacy staff, no phone, no fax, no email, no link that says contact us, if there's the very strong statement, no prescription required, is not a good idea. If there's no guarantee or statement about how consumers' information is going to be kept confidential. If they're misleading statements, and I'm quoting this directly from a university study to be discussed in just a few minutes, misleading statements like, we don't sell any type of medication. We're just there to help people get their medicines cheaper. Or suspicious disclaimers, again from the same university study. By requesting this medication, the requester confirms the release of all pharmacy and all of its employees and contractors, including doctors, from any and all liability whatsoever associated or connected with the request for and use of medications. Or unsupported claims like, Rest assured that you are receiving the same medication that you would at your neighborhood pharmacy. Or large amounts of personal information requested with a statement like, any information that is provided by our customers is never shared, sold, or released to any third party outside our network of doctors who need to view the information in order to write and fill a prescription, and our network of partners. And that's a direct quote. Prices for these online pharmacies can often change literally overnight. And there are often extra fees tacked on to the price of the medication, allegedly for taxes, for shipping, for inspection fees, for customs declarations, which can end up raising the price considerably. You also want to be careful of websites that contain grammatical errors, typos, or just plain lousy English. Now, my experience, because I put my money where my mouth is, about a year or so ago, give or take, I decided to order something online. And I ordered retin A cream. And I did this for the purposes of this presentation because I'm willing to suffer for my art, believe me. I ordered online a 20-gram tube of 0.025% retin A cream. And I looked at several different websites, and the pop-ups were coming along like a 4th of July celebration. There was one called happypills.com that charged $16 for that tube, no prescription required, delivery to the US, which makes no sense because I didn't want to have to go to another country to pick it up. Then there was Renova-retin-a-cream.com. The same thing, they wanted $39.99 for that. Then there was healthwarehouse.com. They wanted $32 for this. Then there was another one, www.nis.kilu. Yes, it stands for kill you. Somebody else pointed that out. kilu.de, Deutschland is a German website. They wanted $32, and then they referred me to another website, pills.stock.com, which had customer support in 6 languages, and they only wanted $19.99 for it. So I ordered from one of the pharmacies, and the price was $15 for this tube. I ended up paying a lot more, probably about double the price, because of shipping and handling and customs and all of that. But for this tube, my insurance company wanted $70. Now, the medical history questionnaire that I filled out had the usual, have you ever had this? Has anybody in your family ever had that? There were no questions on the medical history questionnaire about skin, nothing. And just to see what would happen, I said, well, I've had prostate cancer. Okay? Made no difference, nothing. I don't know, maybe retin A will help prostate cancer, I don't know. Anyway, the tube came in about 2 weeks or so. It was sent from India in a regular envelope. It was handwritten, the address was handwritten, there were stamps, there was no postage meter. And I opened it up, and the cream itself was 2 years past its expiration date. Since then, I have received some calls from people probably in India, Mrs. Carroll, I make you a good price. So they want me to buy some more. I'm also getting emails, I'm still getting emails a year later, from God knows where. Every single one seems to be a different website, offering me the same thing at a lower price and a lower price and a better deal, and I can buy one for this price, but if I want to buy 12, it's going to cost a lot less. And every time I put them on spam, more keep coming. But the buyer is also part of the problem. In 2002, a study titled Patients, Use of the Internet for Medical Information, published in the Journal of General Internal Medicine, found that 60% of their respondents believed that medical information on the Internet was the same or better than information obtained from their doctors. Now, it's frightening to think how many people believe that if a bit of information is on the internet, it's got to be correct. That is, I find that very, very disturbing. In 2010, researchers at a large Midwestern university, and again, there are, of course, pitfalls in doing research with college students, but that notwithstanding for just a moment. In 2010, researchers at a large Midwestern university created 2 bogus websites selling a made-up drug that they call Beozine. Many of the students who participated in this were in health-related majors. In other words, people who were young, educated, and probably should have known better. The researchers asked a very basic question. Can consumers identify unsafe pharmacies? And the answer is a resounding no. Right? Well, why not? First of all, consumers, and not just college students, underestimate the time and the effort that's required to search for reliable information over the internet. It takes some time, and the attention span sometimes goes out the proverbial window. They're often misled by surface credibility. In other words, if the website has an attractive design, if they've got dazzling graphics, if it looks like it's professionally done, if it looks like a reputable website with which they are mildly familiar. They're misled by those websites that diminish untrustworthy features, like don't mention their policy on confidentiality, or say that they are, don't say where they're located, or don't say where the drugs are manufactured, or where they are shipped from or through, or if there is no contact information required listed on the website. Consumers tend to focus on a couple of things. The statement, no prescription required, and on the claim, overnight shipping, which a lot of people misinterpret to mean overnight delivery. In another study, 93% of the respondents who had purchased drugs online never considered the possibility that the drugs might be contaminated or fake. And 27% said that the online seller's guarantee that the drugs were genuine was good enough for them. Now, regulating online pharmacies, yeah, good luck. This is always going to be problematic because obviously there is just so much money to be made. One of the biggest challenges is that they're located very often offshore or in another country. Now, the FDA has the legal authority to take action against the importation, sale, distribution of adulterated or mislabeled drugs or those without valid prescriptions. But it has limited, if any, control over foreign internet pharmacies. If a governmental agency takes down a pharmacy website, sellers will then often market directly to consumers through spam email, through pop-ups. They're hard to monitor also because they can open up, do a lot of business, and then literally disappear overnight. They can be particularly elusive if there's a hot topic in medicine these days. HIV, for example, and unfortunately some websites do claim to have medications that will cure HIV. There's the possibility, hopefully, of public education programs, but again, people will go to the information that they want to find, and they will often ignore contradictory information if it doesn't seem to serve their particular purpose. The FDA and the Customs and Border Protection do work together to detect and seize prescription drugs that have not been approved by the FDA. However, a 2004 report by Health and Human Services found that there's about 20 to 30 full-time FDA employees who are responsible for monitoring all international mail coming into the United States, in addition to their other regular duties. Now, the estimate is that there's about 130 million packages containing counterfeit drugs that come into the United States each year. If a package is found to contain a contraband drug product, it's held and the addressee is given the opportunity to present evidence as to why the package should be allowed into the United States. But in most cases, it's just returned to the sender, which means the contents can be repackaged and resold. The DEA is also involved, obviously, in this regard. In April 2005, the DEA, the FDA, the Customs and Border Protection announced the results of a year-long Operation Cyber Chase, in which the DEA implemented this with the help of several foreign governments, which resulted only in catching about 20 people in the United States and 4 or 5 in other countries. These individuals were members of an internet drug trafficking network that used over 200 different websites to sell drugs all over the world, making millions and millions in profits. Now, was this successful? Not so much. Okay, why? Because, as I've already mentioned, the difficulty of prosecuting people in international jurisdictions. Because doing this kind of an operation does not address the basic problem, which some would say that is the high cost of drugs in the United States. A lot of law enforcement agencies, especially on the local levels, do not have the kind of personnel or the kind of equipment or the kind of personnel with training in computer technology and forensics to be able to do this successfully. Right? So this had very, very little impact on drug sales. There was the Ryan Haidt Online Pharmacy Consumer Protection Act of 2008. Ryan Haidt was a high school student who died due to an overdose of narcotics he had purchased from an online pharmacy. But this actually did not result in too many changes to this or too much improvement. Right? Because the primary source of illegal internet drug sales is outside of the United States, and the bill focused primarily on domestic sales. It's limited to controlled substances and does not include other drugs. And since most internet drug sales don't require a prescription, that part of the bill can be ignored and it also might give internet sellers a chance to make even more profit by selling directly to consumers. So why is it so difficult to regulate online pharmacies? Because simply there is so much money to be made. Okay. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.